Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Organizing to Victory podcast, where we're talking garage politics. On today's episode, we have George Oliver III, who is currently an Ocoee Commissioner in District 4, but is running for Orange County Commissioner District 2. This district has a very diverse community, lots of challenges, but a lot of opportunities. And today, George is going to talk about some of his policy priorities and a little bit about his past. So let's get into it. All right, everyone. So we have a very special guest, Commissioner George Oliver III of Ocoee, of the city of Ocoee. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. And so, I've seen you around and you're always very professional, always ready, always on your game, and you have a large following in Ocoee. But you just recently filed to run for Orange County District 2. What inspired you to do that?
Actually, that's correct. And I get that question all the time. And it's a really great question. And I'll give you the long and short of that, the answer to that. One, after I just won my past election in 2025 for this 4-year term in Ocoee, I believe that I do walk in purpose toward a destiny. And when the opportunity came, I immediately went into prayer and asking God, if this is something that you really want me to do, is this according to your will? Does it line up to your will? And does it line up according to your word? And I slowly started, as the months rolled on, I slowly started getting the answer. And the answer was to pursue. Pursue this, and he will ensure success upon us pursuing this. So that was my spiritual side. So I never go into any race or make any decision that's going to affect myself, my wife, and my family without going into prayer about it. So once the prayers have been answered as to what direction to go in, that's the direction I move in. Sometimes God says, sit, be still. And I've been there and it's okay. But other times God said to pursue. So I'm pursuing according to his will. On the other side of this, on the political side of this, I've always wanted to serve the entire city of Ocoee. As you know, in 2023, I ran for mayor and was not successful. My goal was to serve the entire city and to be able to serve at a level that I would have influence over some of our policies, our procedures, or ordinances, and different things like that to move our city in a certain direction. Well, that didn't happen then. So God opened up another way to do it. And I never thought about it from a county perspective. So now as a county commissioner, I'm able to bring in more resources. I'm able to bring in more influences from the county to say we need to provide different things for the city of Ocoee. We need to allow the city of Ocoee to take over certain roadways that will allow them to expand them, to even help them. So particularly, I'm even talking about, for example, we have the Ocoee-Apopka Road that goes from Ocoee all the way through Apopka and back down to Highway 50. As a commissioner, I will have influence over a budget, or at least a decision to turn that road back over to Ocoee and Apopka, and to create some kind of joint effort to be able to widen the road, create the drainage for that road, and everything that's the sidewalks for that roadway. As a commissioner in District 4, I don't have that influence. I can say it, but just as a commissioner, then I have to really try to work with everyone else, and we can only talk to each other during session. So it limits me to be able to make impact citywide from a district perspective, a city district, District 4. But from a county perspective, when you're actually having influence over the entire city, it gives me more impact. I can make more impact for more people. I can help more people. I can institute more programs for youth and things of that nature. So that's kind of long and short of why I'm actually running. So I'm not leaving Ocoee. I'm actually going to enhance the influence that I have over the direction that the city's going, and be able to help in a lot of different capital projects with the city.
Yeah, it sounds like you're eager to get things done.
Yes,
which
I have
is
a
nice.
lot to get done.
It sounds like you're ready day one to start opening up your laptop and writing emails and, looking at infrastructure and figuring out how to improve quality of life for the residents, not just in Ocoee, but
Apopka as well.
Yeah. So maybe tell me a little bit, what does District 2 encompass at the county?
Well, District 2, let's start with Lockhart. So you got Lockhart going up the Claricona-Ocoee corridor, going into Ocoee, all of Ocoee, all of Apopka. Then we start heading north. You have Tangerine, there's Plymouth, Sorrento, Zellwood, and a small portion of Mount Dora that's inside the Orange County boundaries.
Yeah, there's a lot of history. It's a very rich with history district. A lot of, diverse communities.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to talk about some of the unique challenges and some of the unique opportunities that district holds. But first, I want to learn a little more about you.
Okay.
Like, where were you born and what inspired you to get into politics?
Well, I'm just a poor country boy from Georgia, and never thought I'd be looking to seek office in politics. I was actually born in Tarpon Springs, Florida. My parents was there. My dad was actually born in Tangerine.
Mm-hmm.
He would tell me all the time. My mom was actually born in Tarpon Springs, Florida. They left when I was about 1. I don't think I was even quite 1 year old yet, and they moved to Atlanta. My dad took a job with the railroad after he left the Marine Corps. He took a job with Southern Railroad. So I was raised in Atlanta, Georgia. And some of the influences in Atlanta was people like Maynard Jackson, the first African-American mayor of Atlanta. I would see him quite often. Like he was just a guy next door.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just present all the time. Andrew Young, Joseph Lowry, Hosea Williams, Julian Bond, his kids. These people were around me constantly. Dr. Benjamin E. Mays was always there, whether they were visiting my elementary school or they were there in my high school, or just in the community throwing the ball with us in the sandlot. They were always there and they were present, but they were always giving us a message.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we quite understood the message at the time, but I remember the first time I ever heard the word being a part of a change, and that came from Andrew Young. We were on a sandlot, and he pulled his car over. He started talking to us, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we call him Mr. Young." He was actually an ambassador at the time. He was Ambassador Young. We just as Mr. Young. So he was talking to us, and he was telling us that if you ever want something to change, you have to be a part of it. You have to submerge yourself in the change. And I really didn't know what that meant. I was just like, okay, we'll throw the ball. But really seriously, I was like, let's throw the ball. But he said those words, and it didn't resonate to me until later in life. And that's when it comes to the Ocoee story. And when we left Jacksonville, I got out the military, we went to Jacksonville, stayed there for about 3 years working for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I had a job opportunity to come here, my wife and I. My wife is from here. She's from Orange County. She's from Orlando. And we had the opportunity for her to come home. And I thought that was great for us to raise our kids here. And we get here and we quickly start out growing our home. And we had to find a bigger home and looking for a great tax base. And we found a home in Ocoee. We put a deposit on it. And we told her parents, we're going to be moving to Ocoee. And they said, no, we're not going to come visit you in Ocoee. And that's what sparked looking to see what Ocoee, what do they mean by that? So we started doing a little research. And my wife knew, and then she started telling me a little bit. And I started reading more about it, and I started reading to her, and she was, oh wow, I didn't realize it was that bad. She was always told not to go there, but she didn't have the full reason as to why not to go there. But once we started doing the research, and my wife and I sat down and said, we called the builder and say, well, we don't want to move to Ocoee. We want to move somewhere else. Do you have any other similar homes that you're building in the same tax bracket? And they found us a home in Maitland.
Mm-hmm.
Same builder, same house, same square footage, everything. So we transferred our apartment to our deposit to Maitland. And I don't know what happened. I really can't explain what happened between that. When we transferred the deposit, and within a month, I came to her and I said, Deborah, we need to be part of a change. The only way that city is going to change, we have to be a part of it. We have to submerge ourselves into that city. And she says, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, all we have to do is just buy the house in Ocoee, enroll our kids in school, meet our neighbors, go to work, come home. That's it. We're part of the change. So she didn't quite buy into it right away. About a week or so later, she came back and says, you know what, let's just do it. So I had to call the builder back, say, hey, do you still have that same lot and the same floor plan available back in Ocoee? And fortunately for us, yes. They were able to transfer everything back. So we ended up building a house in Ocoee. We moved in Ocoee, put our kids in school, and slowly started immersing ourselves into the community, not realizing that we're really being a part of what's happening here. So I started coaching. I coached baseball, I coached soccer, football, basketball. So I started to get to know the kids in the neighborhood and the kids in the community. So not only knowing them, I started knowing their parents. And it was great. So I coached up until my kids went to high school. And then a bunch of coaches of us, we had a pact. We were going to leave coaching and go watch the kids play high school sports. Well, I was sitting down one day having lunch at Rustique with, at that time, Senator Randolph Bracey at the time. And we're just talking about the city and, because he was living in the city at the same time. And I jumped on my soapbox about some things I wanted to see done in the city. Some roads, some road projects, widening Clark Road, and some infrastructure things, just a lot of things I wanted to see. I wanted to see more folks get involved in things that I was involved in, like this new sports. And he said to me, "Why don't you run for office?" And I was like, no. Well, what office? He says, office in Ocoee. I'm like, no, I don't want to go that far. I just want to be able to talk on my soapbox, then get back off and go back to my life. But I went and told my wife what he said. And I laughed as a joke. And she was very stoic. And she looked at me, she says, "Why not?" And I'm like, "You're serious?" She says, "Yeah, I'm serious." And at that point, that's when we started looking into running for office. That was 2015. And we ran for office the first time in 2015. And we were not successful by 20 votes. And a lot of folks kept coming up to us saying, "Don't throw your signs away. Don't throw your signs away." Even folks that didn't vote for me, they really listened to the platform and what I had to offer, what I was bringing to the table. And they would come and say, "You know what? I didn't vote for you this time, but if you stick to that platform, you run again, I may look at you a little more seriously." And in 2018, that's exactly what happened. We ended up getting elected. And I say we because it's a collaborative effort. It's just not George Oliver. When you see George Oliver, even running for the county, it is always going to be we, not I, not me. It is a group of people that are dedicated to change. And we all collaborate together to try to get that done through electing me in office. And then we start pushing the agendas to help the community agenda.
What an inspiring story, because Ocoee has a dark side of its history. Yeah. I think part of the fear is the Ocoee Massacre took place. There was a lot of racial profiling. It was a sundown town. There was a lot of injustice that happened to the African-American community. And I think when people hear Ocoee, those that know the history, there is some fear that's incited from that history. But you took that fear and said, "Let me challenge it," which is a very unique thing, I feel like, for your generation to do. And I feel like the generation right before me had to make a lot of decisions like that, because it was just a generation before that when people were taking their kids to a lynching.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's scary because, a lot of young kids now don't know that, when you look at those black and white photos in history books, that was not that long ago.
It wasn't.
And for
50,
you
60 years ago,
to make a decision to actively bring your children into a situation where they'll be in school with grandparents who probably were a part of some of those hate crimes, is a very scary but precise choice that you made to challenge the status quo and be a front runner. Whether or not you were going to pursue politics, you wanted to be the front runner of change.
Absolutely. And I hear the word change agent mentioned all the time. I have to go back again to those moments with those leaders in Atlanta, Georgia, and having those influences in my life. I have to go back to that and say, that's kind of where it all started. But they were instilling these things in me, but not realizing what it was doing to me internally and how it was going to shape my future as I become an adult. So you're right. The reality of it was, what you just stated. The reality was just that, yes, I'll be, I'm maybe one or two generations removed from, mass lynchings, and understanding what the Ocoee Massacre was all about. They wanted to vote. They simply wanted to vote in a presidential election, and a massacre ensued behind that. So again, I think we have a lot of folks that lived. Then there was 268 African Americans living in Ocoee, and it was November 1st, 1920. By sundown or daybreak of November the 3rd, 2020, there were none. They were gone. They were wiped away, almost genocide. You know, at least they were trying to commit genocide. And that resonates to me as being something real. And I must tell you, when I first got into the politics, and having folks come up to me saying, hey, you know, quietly say, I'll support you, but I can't do it outward. I gotta live in this city. And that kind of really disturbed me, to know that there are people still living like that, living in the shadows, knowing they want to change, but there was no one stepping up for that change. And at that point I realized, I had to think about Dr. King. Dr. King knew what he was facing, you know, and I'm not comparing myself to him in any way. I'm just saying that sometimes our lives are defined by moments. And in those moments that I experienced, just dealing with folks in the city that wanted to change but was quiet about it and understood what they had to deal with, the remnants of the racism that was still there at the time in 2018, I was taking a bold step, and I had no choice. I had to. I couldn't wiggle my way out of it. I couldn't turn around. I had to move forward. And I think that my wife and kids understood that. After we sat down and I told them about my upbringing, they knew about my upbringing. They knew that I was a person with a purpose. I'm a man of purpose. I'm a man of destiny. And I had to walk in that purpose at that moment. So we decided to run for office and put not only myself, but my family in a situation where it could be harmful to them. It could be some danger that we did not foresee. But we are praying family. My wife and I pray all the time, and we believe in the covering of God. So we move forward in that purpose and just say, we're going to do this. We're going to be the person or the people that stand up. And once we stood up, more people started coming and standing up. More people started being more boisterous about the change that they wanted to see in the city. So my goal was not to amplify the stigmatism that we have been under for so long. The goal was to see, how do we try to distinguish? How do we try to identify, educate folks on it? This did happen, and give them not only the education of it, but now how do we move forward together, regardless of where you come from, whether you've been there for 70, 80, 90 years, or you just got to the city. How do we come together in unity? How do we come together as one Ocoee? Not New Ocoee, not Old Ocoee, not East Ocoee, not West Ocoee, not North or South, but one Ocoee, which I canned that mantra, one Ocoee, hashtag one Ocoee, and folks they liked it. So more and more folks that from all walks of life started coming together and say, hey, you know what? If you stand up, I'll stand with you. I'll stand with you. We'll stand with you. This group will stand with you. And it was amazing to see folks coming out of the shadows saying, you know what? It's time for change. And if you'll stand up, I'll stand with you.
Well, I really like that story. I feel like a lot of people around that same time, and because so much has changed just in the course of the last 5 years, but since 2018, I feel like there's probably been a large resurgence of new people moving into Ocoee because it's more affordable than Orlando, and Orlando's growing so rapidly. So you're getting a large influx of diverse people, families trying to buy their first home, which feels like a whole feat in and of itself now. And with that change, you know, you probably have some other struggles with gentrification, affordable housing, and just infrastructure that's, you know, buckling to the point of breaking. How did you face that in Ocoee, and how do you think going into District 2 will help you tackle it even further?
Well, you know, one thing we have to think about is when I look at my platform, when I go back and I always look at, from every race that I run, I go back to the last where I say, what was the platform?
Mm-hmm.
My platform has been consistent. And I just realized that after looking about a month ago to run for this office for District 2, I said, okay, what was the platform? Then I started looking, one thing sticks out, and that's infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Infrastructure was definitely a big thing. So most folks don't realize that the city of Ocoee is in a donut hole. We sit right in the middle of a donut hole. We have the 429, Highway 50, the Turnpike, Silver Star, and we have that readily available right there to us. So we sit in that donut hole. So we have new folks moving in all the time. And we're constantly building. And I have to say, infrastructure, not only just expanding our roadways. Like for instance, one of the major projects that got done was widening Clark Road, and that had been on the books for years before I even got there. But we were able to get Clark Road widened all the way from being 2 lanes to 4 lanes, from AD Mims all the way up to Clark on Ocoee, and then not only that, we got it pushed all the way through to McCormick. So all that was done. The push to McCormick was done during 2020, during COVID, and then when I came back in office the last time, they finished up Clark Road. We got that done. So and I look at that and I think about infrastructure. Most people think roadways and they think about stop signs and traffic lights, and those are very important. One of the things, in addition to getting traffic signals installed at Ingram Road and Ocoee Road, getting additional stop signs done, getting the one done working with the county, getting the traffic light at McCormick and Ocoee Apopka Road, we had so many accidents, there's so many deaths there. But I had to think about 5G technology. Mm-hmm. How do we get people as a part of infrastructure? How do we get people internet service, competitive internet service, as opposed to having one company that is controlled, have a monopoly over the entire city? I pushed very hard to bring in companies that would actually add in 5G technology. With the 5G technology, guess what else we got? We got fiber optic cabling added in. So now we have 3 to 4 companies that folks can actually pick and choose from. The savings that it represents to the average person that get internet service from one company for 10 years or 20 years, and now they have choices, and they save money that way. So looking at that infrastructure and affordability, so that goes right into affordability. So now I can pick and choose, as opposed to paying $125 a month for internet service and streaming services. Now I only pay $56 with a company that just came in, and I have fiber optic cabling. So when the power goes out, sometimes I still have internet. Occasionally, sometimes I will still have it, but nonetheless, the infrastructure is there, and folks that think about infrastructure, they don't think along those terms. They don't think that, well, what about 5G technology? What about being able to get on the internet? What about being able to talk on my phone in my house? Those kind of things when you live in a more rural area of the city. And those are some of the things that we focus on. So getting road widening, and also traffic calming devices, where you can kind of, sometimes we have to narrow roads to keep folks from traveling so fast because they're in school zones, or there's an elementary school near there. So those are some of the things that we focused on, in the city. Now, from the county perspective, we should be able to look at that and say, how do we get grants from the county to actually help us either expand or to slow down? Like in the case of Clark on Ocoee Road, we were able to slow folks down. It was 55 at one time, now it's 40. We had certain lights that was needed there. Now we have lights at the corner of Clark on Ocoee and Clark Road that are functioning and working fine. And we have actually decreased the accident rate almost by half. And that's just dealing with infrastructure. In addition to that, what about the West Orange Trail that goes along through our city? What about being able to prevent folks from getting hit by cars as they're negotiating left and right turns across the trail? So we've actually added in, working with the county, we've added in additional safety features along the trail at these different junctions at the West Orange Trail and Clark Road and Clark on Ocoee. So these are things that have been important. These are projects that I want to keep going. I want to continue to do that. But more importantly, besides infrastructure, and we start looking at development, because we're developing like crazy, and folks are having a hard time. And I think Ocoee is a great place to live because of the tax base, and we can find some affordable homes that folks can actually buy and be proud of and raise a family there. We also have to look at the balance between development and our green spaces. The green spaces is going to be so important to us because they're slowly being eroded away. There's and it's like right before our eyes, and we can't even see it because it was that tree in front of us, and we're not paying attention to what's going on in the forest. It's just the tree in front of us.
Well, yeah, there were cows there last week, and then all of a sudden there's an apartment there.
There's an apartment, exactly. So I met with a bunch of construction companies and developers. That was on Wednesday. It was about 30 to 40 developers. And believe it or not, a lot of them had plans on how do we preserve green space? How do we preserve amenities that they've been taking away? So now what we have to do, we have to get the folks that care about our environment, the developers that care. Development's not going away. I get that, but our environment is being slowly eroded away. So how do we get, from the county perspective, how do we get the environmentalists and developers at the same table to come up with plans, comprehensive plans as to how to move forward in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, but also be able to develop, but maintain these wetlands, our static water basins. How do we maintain our green spaces? Every city has requirements for green space development. For every square footage development, you got to have so many acres of green space for that. And one last thing I want to point out is the fact that when we start talking about green space, the balance between our green space and our development is that we have to start holding someone accountable for it. Because when you go into a wildlife, something that's supposed to be a wildlife preserve area, then someone gives them permission to start building on it,
right,
and developing on that. And then you have wildlife that comes out of that. You have black bears, you have panthers, you have raccoons, you have the indigenous species that was living in that area. They just scatter. Who has a plan to actually move them somewhere safe? Who has a plan to say, well, we need to trap some of these animals and move them to a safe space while we develop?
No,
I've never seen that done before.
They literally told me when I was working for Commissioner Wilson that because they move, there's no way to write code around them, as opposed to like a tree ordinance.
Yeah.
There's no wildlife ordinance. So you bring up a very good point. The problem is, not all developers are created equal. There are some
Correct.
smaller developers that are willing to come to the table and have conversations, but there's also massive developers that have been a part of Florida for generations that feel like they run the place. And they go up to Tallahassee and they hand bills to legislators basically saying, here's all the ways we want to be deregulated. So when you say holding someone accountable, right now, developers, mega developers, the massive developers, Tavistock, Lennar Homes.
I knew you were going to say that.
These mega developers, they are actively trying to stop their ability to have to pay so many impact fees. They don't want to pay their fair share for the long-term maintenance that a small municipality has to come out of pocket with the little bit of tax infrastructure that you have in order to maintain the roads and the weight on all of your infrastructure. And we play this cat and mouse game where a lot of elected officials I've seen on every level have fought with environmentalists and fought with activists who have tried to say we have to hold developers accountable. And they try to pin this war against us versus affordable housing and say, oh, well, you're slowing our growth, which means you're actively hurting our people who are looking for new inventory. But if they, as in the mega developers, are writing the legislation that's moving through Tallahassee to make the AMI of affordable housing 120%, which is in our local economy, almost non-existent.
Correct.
Where are those $90,000 jobs for you to be able to afford a luxury apartment at almost $2,400 a month for just 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And then they go after, state and local funding in order to be considered affordable housing. That's not where our money needs to go. Our money needs to go to the 30% AMI, the people that are making $40,000, $50,000 a year,
yes,
because our local economy is stimulated by the tourism industry, which that's the average salary in hospitality, $40,000 to $50,000 a year for nurses.
If that.
Nurses, the higher end salaries are a little bit more on the rare side. And yet we're seeing a trend where when you start to increase, right now we have Senate Bill 180 that is, there's an amendment, but it's not enough, preempting local governments from being able to create any regulations around development because they're calling it too restrictive and too burdensome. And now they're making you as a local government liable in court if you try to put on any additional regulations to say, hey, maybe not there, maybe not that wetland.
Home rule takes away home rule. Yes,
takes away home rule. I mean, I'm glad to hear that there are some developers that are willing to come to the table, but they're really the minority in comparison to those that are grabbing power right now.
Correct. And it's so funny you mentioned that. And my sister works for one of them. Yes, she's in-house counsel for one of the largest developers here in Florida.
You guys must have wonderful conversations over dinner.
Our conversations, oh my goodness, our conversations,
she better be a primary contributor to your campaign or else.
They get pretty heated.
She's making your job actively harder while
I tell her so funny. I tell you a funny story too. So she'll donate through like my mom. So this last campaign, no, the one before last, I called her. I said, Jazz, thank you so much. She says, for what? You just made $1,000 donation to my campaign in your name. She says, what do you mean? I didn't do that. Oh, yes, you did. Your mom put your name on it. Your mom put your name on the. Oh. She goes. She says, "Oh, okay." I said, "You want to discuss it?" She goes, "No, I'm at work. I'll call you later." Mm-hmm. But our conversations really, they get pretty deep. They get pretty intense because I'm trying to find balance, but her idea is one sided. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to get her to look at it a little more broad, be more broad about your scope and the way you look at things when it comes to development and environment and affordability at the same time. And I said, the average person, the houses you guys built, the average person out of college, maybe a teacher or a firefighter or even police officer can't afford to buy one of your homes, even on the lower end. If it had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, couldn't afford it. Yeah. And she agreed with that. She agrees with that. So I said, well, what do we do about that? She says, I don't have an answer for that because I work in this industry and I don't have a lot of knowledge about the other side of it. I said, well, that's the reason for these conversations. Well, I'm trying to tell you, here's the other side of these things. So my thought is this: you have to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if I was in a room with 30 and 40 construction companies and developers, and they were willing to at least have the conversation about how do we make housing affordable, how do we actually allow you to continue to develop, but also be mindful of our green spaces and keep some of the construction that you build or the homes that you build affordable. We start there. We start with the ones that are willing to listen, the ones that don't have the big budget for the lobbyists, and we partner. And we set an example. We create the blueprint. It worked here, and this is how it can work. So now when we go to Tallahassee and you're dealing with legislators, and you have the lobbyists, the big lobbyists in one ear, but then you got the community in another ear. Mm-hmm. Well, don't forget who got you here. Don't forget who voted for you to get you here. Don't forget about that. Yeah. Because sometimes. And I've seen this, and I've been a part of this, where my candidates outraised me 2-1 or 3-1, even 4-1, 5-1, and I still won.
Yeah.
So again, you have to keep that in mind. Now what do? We're able to talk to the legislators and say, okay, we have people at the table that's really ready to do this, and we've set a blueprint. I'll take it a step further. I was always told sometimes when you want to get something done, you got to get outside the box. Mm-hmm. So I go home and I talk to some of the legislators at home about workforce housing and what they've done there at home. And I'm like, okay, take me to some of these workforce houses. Show me what you guys are doing up here. How are you doing? How are you doing this? I understand you have a massive economy. I understand you guys have a lot more than we have here, but how did you get started with your workforce housing? So I was able to visit one location where there are teachers. The only people that is live, work, play community, where we have all these beautiful amenities. Everything you could imagine was there. And there was teachers, firefighters, police officers, and city workers that lived in this apartment building.
Was it like a public-private partnership?
It was like a public-private partnership that the city started. They started doing this about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're starting to pop up everywhere, where they're able to keep housing affordable, maintain their green space through the Beltline.
Yeah.
So the Beltline was a part of the walkway from Southeast Atlanta all the way down to Ponce Market, and the apartments along that. Some of them are workforce, some of them are private, but for the most part, you have workforce housing where there's only a small segment of people, like, again, the teachers. You have to be either a teacher, a city worker, a firefighter, or a police officer, and you can actually live in these and make it affordable. So they have come up with a formula. So why can't we, as a municipality, as a state, look at these formulas outside of our box and come up with solutions? Bring some folks to the table that's ready to talk, and let's create the blueprint as to how do we actually create affordable housing for certain segments of our population, and how do we maintain the green space at the same time? It's not impossible. It's just a matter of getting folks to the table that's ready to do the work. We can talk about it all day, but we need folks that's to the table, that's sitting at the table, that's ready to make these things happen. Not to be passive because you're trying to play politics with the community in one ear and the developers in the other ear, and you want to kind of stay in the middle of the road. Well, guess what? When I decided to run for office in Ocoee, I couldn't stand in the middle of the road and say, well, I'm an independent. I'm a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Independent. I'm going to stay down the middle of the road. No, I had to take a stand. Say, I'm George Oliver. I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm willing to work with anyone that's ready to move our city forward. So I had to take a stance.
Yeah.
Some folks didn't like it, but that was noise to me. I could not let that stop me or let that stop us from moving the city forward. And it's the same principle when it comes to affordable housing, green space, and development. We have to apply those same principles.
I mean, at the county level, we were a part of the charter amendment to strengthen protections of our green spaces by making any land use changes a majority +1 vote in the charter to change any conservation list. Because a lot of developers that say they want to come to the table, what they really mean is, like the Blue Ribbons project that's moving through Tallahassee right now, the developers are putting forward this legislation where if you have a 10,000 acre property, AKA Desert Ranch out in the far east side of the county, and 60% of that goes into conservation, then the local government shouldn't have a say on approving that project. It gets automatic approval. Well, what that reads to me is, just like through my work with Save Split Oak Forest, anything can be labeled conservation until they want to change it. And so this blue ribbon, it reminds me of like a carrot on a stick situation of like, doesn't it sound so good that this major landowner / developer wants to put 60% of their property, but also allow 12 units per acre on the parts where they want to develop in the wildlife corridor? So this is a very bait and switch situation where they want to say, well, we'll come to the table on conservation. We'll put 60% of our property into conservation until they're ready to develop it. And then they'll do everything they can, just like they're doing with Split Oak Forest, which has 5 layers of legal protections to protect it, the strongest protected land in the entire state. setting a legal precedent for eroding future conservation land designations. But it sounds really good to a legislator that's up in Tallahassee who wants to have an out and say, well, they're willing to put 60% of their land, though, into conservation. Mind you, this is wildlife corridor acreage. So this, if you were to be voted in, these are the types of tactics that some developers that claim to be at the table. I like your idea of trying to be proactive in having your own environmental policies. So for example, even with, removal or assessing the environmental impact to the wildlife, you have an opportunity to write legislation, unfortunately, which would probably be preempted by Senate Bill 180 right now, but to strengthen the tree ordinance, to strengthen wetland protections, to actively change the charter to make it more restrictive and more costly to mass grade natural lands, because developers are finding that as a quick loophole that's cheaper than investing in our communities right now. I mean, Ocoee, Apopka, there are some parts of the community that look like they're forgotten. Yeah. Why doesn't a developer want to develop there, but they'd rather develop in pristine 100-year-old flatwoods in the middle of nowhere? Because it's cheaper.
It is cheaper. And you make a great point about the smoke and mirror effect when it comes to charter versus legislature, state law. And it sounds good to a legislator when it comes to that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not an anti-developer. I'm not anti-development. And I'm certainly not anti-environment at all, because I love the environment. I love the green spaces that we have preserved in the city of Ocoee. But I do agree that there is a segment of the smoke and mirror effect when it comes to land use rights, and it's really something that goes back well over 100 years, because we start dealing with land use, and you grant somebody land use to do something. It could be nothing there. Then all of a sudden they want to come along 30, 40, 50 years after that with the land use rights and say, I'm going to build this. I don't care about the lake behind me. I'm going to push that water. I'm going to move it. I'm going to flood the people on the other side over here.
Yep.
And you can't do anything to stop me because you gave me the land use rights.
Right.
So where do we start with that? You can change your city charter, but if I have a city charter that is contrary to state law, that city charter don't mean anything. I can change my ordinances, my land use ordinances in the city all day long.
Yeah.
But until they line up with state law, legislative law, then we're going to continue to end up with this smoke and mirror effect. So the charters don't mean anything, and it has to start at Tallahassee. We have to get to legislators or elect legislators that understand the importance of that smoke and mirror effect. Say we're going to do one thing one way, we're going to label this way, but then when a big builder comes in that don't care about the environment, don't care about a seat at the table and having a conversation about this 60% that we have designated over here, and but we're going to put, okay, we'll cut it out a little bit, we'll change it a little bit, we'll change the ordinance, we'll change the charter, but it lines up with state law, so we're still good. 12 units per acre? Oh, come on.
In the rural areas,
in a rural area.
Where we don't have any hope for transit. I mean, Orange County is in a $64 million deficit for the infrastructure that we have right now. And then when you actually look at the transportation needs, the needs of people that are projected to move here with the projected entitlements of the developments that haven't even been developed yet.
Correct.
We are in a hole, and Orange County especially cannot afford 4 million cars on the road with the infrastructure that we have, because Vision 2050 projected 4 million residents.
4 million, which is on hold. That comp plan is on hold right now.
It's being attacked. It's being targeted.
It has been targeted, been attacked.
But it doesn't stop the people from moving here.
And I don't even think it was approved by Tallahassee yet, or Tallahassee some kind of kickback.
Yeah, because of Senate Bill 180.
Yeah, because of the 180, which has been amended to 840 now, which
does nothing.
It's a little better than 180. I can say that much. It's a little better than 180.
But it still keeps you liable for lawsuits.
It keeps me liable. I think there's another plan that's going to be proposed But we all know that come August, something's going to hit the ballot because, and the big thing's going to be the property taxes.
Yes.
So we have this issue in Tallahassee where we have, it's a legislature issue because at the county level, we also have an opportunity because right now we're sitting on the precipice of a great opportunity, not just to move the needle, but to turn the whole dial.
Yeah. Because
you have, is it 7 seats? There's some activity in about 7 seats, I believe.
Yep.
Out of 9.
Mm-hmm.
And when's the next time we're going to ever see that? 20 years? 30 years? When is the next time we're ever going to have this particular opportunity to put people in place that is going to be able to say, okay, here's the direction that we need to be going in. Here's how we mitigate the risk of 12 units per acre in our rural areas. Here's a plan that we can all get behind. Mm-hmm. But now take that a step further is to how do we take that sentiment, those ideas, those thoughts of those 9 elected officials, and now how do we go to Tallahassee and say, this is what we want?
Well, I'm grateful to hear that.
How are we going to do this?
I'm very grateful to hear that because I very rarely see local commissioners go up to Tallahassee to really fight. And I think right now, there's 20 land use bills that are preempting local government.
I thought it was more than that.
Oh, well, the 20 that I'm referencing are the ones that are saying you cannot regulate pollution in your water.
Yeah.
You cannot. I mean, I don't know how much you've looked into water quality, but we have cancer clusters all over Orange County, and we have 90% of our water bodies are impaired with mercury and arsenic. Yeah. Things that
Lake Apopka.
Look at
Lake Apopka, beautiful lake that no one's been able to boat on or fish or do anything in the past 30 years.
And it used to be a $1 billion tourism generator that still has so many challenges. But what I'm saying is, the fact that you're willing to go up to Tallahassee and fight while also feeling like it's your responsibility to be a commissioner locally.
It's all of our responsibility. Every last one of us. Again, I'm a city commissioner in District 4 in the city of Ocoee. The county has several projects that go through my district. Mm-hmm. Guess what I do? I go to the county.
Yeah.
Because how effective am I if I call the city manager? If I call the mayor, hey, I need you to call down to the county and tell them to stop doing this, or how quickly this light going to get up. That's ineffective. I need to get up off my butt, go down to the ivory tower, and have conversations with the mayor, with the engineer, the traffic engineers, with other commissioners, and say, this is what we want. Like, for instance, Claricon, Ocoee, and McCormick Road right now. Not Claricon, no, I'm sorry. Apopka Vineland and McCormick Road right now, next to the church. They're proposing a roundabout. Wait a minute. You want a roundabout there? We got 18-wheelers going up and down that road. That makes no sense whatsoever. You don't even have, I don't even think they have the right of way to do it. Mm-hmm. And you want it without purchasing someone else's property to do it. And all we asked for was a light, a 3-way light. That's all we ever asked for. And I remember a couple of years ago, when we were fighting for this, there was a large development, city of Ocoee, right at that corner. And they told us that it was D.R. Horton. We're going to put a light there between D.R. Horton and the county. We're going to put a 3-way light there. At the time, a 3-way light was $250,000 to put the light there. D.R. Horton at the time had close to $250,000 in tax credits or impact credits sitting at the county. They could have easily put a light there. They told us when we hit 50% capacity, they would go, 50% capacity? How many folks are going to die before you hit 50% capacity?
Right.
Guess what? They're almost 100% capacity. There's still no light there. They're talking about a roundabout.
Yeah.
That's going to take another 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah.
We can't operate like that.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Government officials, elected officials, has to operate with a sense of urgency. And I'll tell you why. Because if I'm at an intersection and it needed a light there, and they're kicking a can on the road about the light there, and then next week, a family of 5 going through the intersection gets T-boned and kills the whole family. A week later, there's a light there. What does that tell you?
Right.
That tells you we can always do what we want to do. We can always cut through red tape all the time and get things done. And that's what upsets me more than anything, because our government and a lot of our elected officials just don't have a sense of urgency. They have been injected with the, let's just say they have drunk the Kool-Aid and just say, I'm just going along to get along. There's a lot of elected officials that they go along to get along, but yet ineffective to the people that voted them in. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of them out there that they'll fight. And those are what I'm interested in working with. The ones that's ready to roll your sleeves up. Let's fight for these folks that got us here. If we got to get outside the Orange County box and go into the Tallahassee box, then that's what we got to do. If we got to work across the aisle, we got to work across the aisle. We got to do what we got to do to get the things that we need in our districts, in our county. Yeah. And that's just my stance. It's a hard stance. Some folks like it, some folks don't. I can't be distracted by that. I have to look at what the folks want and what they need.
And I will tell you, working in the county commission now for almost 5 years, specifically, I've seen municipalities be able to work at lightning speed for things like a light. But let me tell you, the county is just so slow. And I think there's some other problems that need to be addressed. Just being able to pay our staff a living competitive wage so that we can actually hold on to staff and not have a 20% staff deficit, which creates huge amounts of backlog. And I mean, we can go on and on about that, but I really want to talk about, there's 7 open races at the county commission this year. We could have a whole new dynamic of a board. We can have people who are fighters, like what you say you've spent your whole life fighting for. Or we can have some people that are just plug and play from the tourism industry that just want to yes vote on, the tourism development tax, for example.
Correct.
I'm very scared that, we're going to have all these awesome grassroots people running. And then on the final day of qualifying, like I've seen on every race I've ever worked on, we're going to have like a corporate plug come in at 5:00 on the final day of qualifying. And they're basically going to be like the industry puppets that are going to be backed with millions and millions of dollars. How do you think your stance would be different than those folks who just want to keep like the TDT, for example, the same and not really fight for their community?
Our TDT right now is, it's amazing how much money we got in our TDT right now.
Right. It's record numbers.
Yes, record numbers. And, and I agree. Unfortunately, those things happen. You get a corporate plug, someone that comes in and say, okay, we're going to back you, throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at you, your campaign, and get folks to vote for you based on just your marketing. We're gonna market you so well that folks are just your household name.
And they never knock on a door.
They never knock on one door. Again, in my district, District 4, I have 8,006 active registered voters, with close to 15,000 actual residents that live there. And I can tell you at least twice, George Oliver had knocked on every single door in his district at least twice. They've seen me. So can I knock on 175,000 doors in the county? Probably not. But what I can do, I can be accessible. I can be an accessible candidate for them. Not only am I accessible to them, but I also like to bring solutions to the table for these. There's large corporations out there have interests, but I also need to be able to let them understand that, yes, I understand you have to make money. Yes, I understand you're in the business to make money. Yes, I understand that you want to employ folks. Yes, I understand you have initiatives that may impact the community positive and even negatively. I get that. But what you have to understand about me is I'll represent the folks of the district that voted for me. And I'm going to lean more towards making sure that they have the things that they need. I'm going to fight for them. But I'm also going to try to educate them to understand that we have to find balance. Yeah. We got to find balance in what we're doing with these developers. And now they plug people in all the time. But I think the difference is going to be is when these large developers or large corporations hear my message and hear what I have to say, they're going to look at me and say, I might be able to work with this guy.
I hope so.
I think I can work with this guy. I don't need to plug anybody in. This guy's obviously a fighter. And I think that I can work with him. But not only he's a fighter, but he seems to be reasonable. I'm a very reasonable person. I'm not saying that I can straddle the fence on every issue, because some things the community is passionate about. If the community is passionate about it, then I have to be passionate about it. I have to really sit down and listen to what they have to say. And we talk about accessibility. Accessibility is the first A on my platform. Why should people that live in Sorrento or Zellwood or live in the northern part or Mount Dora, why should they have to get in their car, drive down to downtown Orange County in Orlando? I call it Ivory Tower. It's okay. That's just what I called it, but it's okay.
It's okay.
And pay for parking.
Yeah.
Make an appointment to see me.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of hooey to me, because, and I don't know, there may be commissioners doing this, but my idea of being a commissioner is being accessible to the community.
Mm-hmm.
I need an office in Ocoee.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to the Ocoee leadership. I need an office somewhere. You need to give me an office somewhere in the city so I can meet with the residents here. I'm going to Apopka. Mm-hmm. Whoever the leadership may be come March 10th, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah.
I need something where folks can meet with me at least once a quarter up here.
Yeah.
I need to go to Tangerine and Plymouth and say, where can I find a little space? I don't care for the storefront.
Or the lobby in a hotel.
I'll tell you something what I've done. I went to Publix. I got a sign that said, meet your commissioner. And I had a little table there.
Yeah.
And I was sat there on a Sunday after church. It says, I'm here for anybody who want to talk to me in my district. I found a Publix in my district. And that's what I did. Because folks need they need to see that the people that they voted for, whether they voted for me or not, I'm accessible to them. So let's just say if you didn't vote for me, guess what? I'm asking for the opportunity to win your support, to earn your support. I'm asking for that opportunity. So give me the opportunity and let me show what I can do.
Well, I mean, just to be very specific about like TDT diversification, a lot of money is being dumped into a convention center that I doubt people in Apopka or Tangerine or Ocoee have ever been.
Not.
That they have to pay for parking. And it's frankly not really something that is for us in the community. It's being dumped into like huge arenas downtown. And when you bring up wanting to do like satellite office hours, you'll probably quickly find that the community centers and the county owned and managed properties are sparse. Mm-hmm. And that's where I would say, like, tourism development taxes, we could have like visitor welcome centers and small museums that can bring out the history and the beauty of some of these places in your historic district, that you could have a little satellite office in, a little conference room that's accessible to the community with internet for folks that maybe don't have access to internet. And that is, per right now, the uses of the TDT, even with our exceptions, are things that would be acceptable. But again, our tourism industry is fighting tooth and nail. We have on February 10th, the audit for Visit Orlando is coming back with a recommendation for an amendment to the contract with Visit Orlando, where millions of dollars just in 1 year were, Phil Diamond told me to say, not misappropriated, misclassified, as you will.
Shout out to Phil.
Shout out to Phil. And he's one of my top favorite elected officials. But, I think right now there's a unique opportunity with 7 new commissioners to have a united front, not to say no to the tourism industry, but to say, let's partner and here's our list of solutions. Because I think for too long, they were at the driving wheel and the commissioners just had to follow suit. And for that, people in your very district have been basically paying into a system that doesn't have a return on their quality of life.
That's correct. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Going back to the comment you made about going out there paying for parking and, your resident. Well, I remember a while ago, I haven't been to university in a long time. I remember all I had to do was show my Florida driver's license. I could park for free at Universal. I don't know if that's still true or not, but if so, I think they had
$30.
Oh, Jesus.
It's so much money.
Yeah. So Florida residents don't even park free at Universal.
I remember when I used to go to Halloween Horror Nights, it was like, it started, you could park free after 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Then it was $8. And this last go around, it was $24.
Oh, wow. Wow. So they got rid of a great system that supported the local residents or the Florida residents that to replace it with dollars they might have lost from COVID.
While bringing in record profits.
Yes. Yes. Well, post-COVID earnings for Universal, Disney, the theme parks were massive.
Massive. So I just bring that up because, God, could you imagine investing in those green spaces using tourism development taxes? We know for a fact that green ecotourism is a huge economic driver.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We could be investing in that right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I brought this up on like almost every podcast, but I went to Berlin recently.
Okay.
And they have invested so much of their tourism development tax dollars into putting the darkest parts of their history on display.
On display.
They have like billboards that show the history of the Berlin Wall and some of the oppression, where you can walk for free while you're waiting for the bus and read about the history with, you know, proper lighting, and, you know, it's clean and it's well maintained, and they have like historic monuments everywhere. I feel like Florida doesn't want to invest in looking at that history and investing in making sure that people that move here don't forget.
And you know what? It's so funny you mentioned that, because just a week ago, no, 2 weeks ago, a good friend of mine, former Magic player, Orlando Magic player, had just left Berlin. Matter of fact, the day he had gotten back, we were watching one of the playoff games, and he said, "I just got back from Berlin," and he talked about that.
Yeah,
the history, how they have the history of the Berlin Wall and the oppression that they had. It's all out in plain view and clear display, so you can read all about it. I didn't know that the city of Berlin actually invested in that and actually made it free for everybody to see it. I had no idea that he didn't tell me about that part.
But imagine if we had the Ocoee Massacre, or some of the historic places that would shelter African Americans that would come and visit, like the Wells Built Museum in Paramore.
Yes, I think about when you said that, I thought about Senator Geraldine Thompson and the Wells Built Museum and her office being in there.
And it's like they're pinching pennies to make it. And I'm like, we have millions going into a convention center that's empty, you know?
Correct. Which I think we have the second largest convention center in the United States besides LA Live. I think we're the second largest, I believe. But we're up there. We're up there. But you know what? You make an interesting point, because when I think about the city of Ocoee and where we started, I wasn't too pleased with the centennial. As most folks know, I was very voracious about my displeasure with our preparation for our centennial as it pertains to the Ocoee Massacre in 2020. But I will say this, I don't think that my voice went unheard, because as it stands right now, as I mentioned earlier in our podcast, is that I had the opportunity to hang out with Pastor Stephen Nunn, which is July Perry's great-grandson, and showed him some of the progress we made. I took him to Unity Park, multi-million-dollar park, Unity Park, where you can reflect, you can sit down. Every name of every citizen that was affected by the Ocoee Massacre is on a wall, and it's lit up at night. The whole park is lit up at night. It is very cerebral, very serene park. And throughout, I'm not going to say that it was my voice that prompted that. I think that the city commission as a whole start looking at this and saying, okay, and then some of the citizens start voicing their opinions about, what do we got? What are you doing beyond this failed attempt to pacify us in 2020 and let it sweep it on the rug and keep it moving? Mayor Johnson at the time, about 2 years afterwards, 2022, he proposed this Unity Park. Now, him and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. We just don't see eye to eye. That one, when I saw the renderings and I saw what he was proposing, and I looked at that, I said, okay, I can get behind this.
That's cool.
I said, okay. I said, I don't know what happened between 2020 and 2022, but when he proposed it to the commission, we all looked at it and say, we can really get behind this. and sink dollars, some of our tax dollars into this program. So the first time, and I didn't go to the ribbon cutting for it. I was out of town when it had the ribbon cutting. But I didn't think I was in office at the time. The 2023, I was out of office that 1 year. But in 2024, I was actually leading a tour, a Juneteenth tour, with a group out of Orlando, and I had the chance to go. They wanted to go to Unity Park. I got there about an hour before the bus pulled up, and I was amazed. I was like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." I seen pictures, but when I saw it in person, I was proud of what we had accomplished as a collective unit. Now, I say all that to say this: there's always been conversation since I've been there since 2018 about a museum. We want to. We don't mind displaying the ugly past of Ocoee, but we also want people to see how far we've come from that as well. We want to tell the whole story. I think it's important that people get to see the whole story because they can walk away with a sense of pride to say, now we're no longer sundown town, we're Sunrise City, and all is welcome. And look at the population, and look at the segments of population that has moved here since then. But it's important for people to have that education component. So we had opportunity at one point to get some state dollars. We put in a bid for it. We lost out to, it was Rosewood or Edenville. We lost out to one of those cities, but we came in like second or something like that. But we have yet to get the opportunity to bring in some county or some state dollars to build a museum. And I tell you, our city commission is ready to do this. We just need to find the money to do it and find the backing to do it. Maybe some public-private partnerships, but nonetheless, it's not something that's off the table. Mm-hmm. It is something that we're proud to support. We just got to find how to get it done.
And the people in your community, all communities, but in your community specifically, really deserve to have that. But I'm afraid, because right now the state legislature is talking about a special session to cut property taxes. And for people that don't know all that goes into property taxes, in order for our communities to be safe, we need to pay our police and our firefighters. We need to be able to have allocations for the basic infrastructure that we have, the basic payroll that we need in order to keep our staff employed. And most of that stems from property taxes. In order for us to think about all the good we can do in elected office, we have to understand the risk of this narrative that local governments are doing wasteful spending. You know, we had that Doge audit the FAFO that came from the state that subpoenaed 16 of our Orange County staff and called, funding resources like giving kids routers during COVID so that they could work from home instead of sitting outside of a Taco Bell trying to get internet in the rural communities waste. Mm-hmm. Pedestrian infrastructure and homeless resources to put people into shelters during emergencies. Waste.
Yes.
It's not waste. But the state is actively trying to build this narrative with these subpoenas and with these audits in order to suggest that local governments are misappropriating funds. If they're successful, you're not going to be able to come in within close distance to your museum idea or some of your other fun ideas, because I believe that the local governments are going to be starving for resources and are going to have to comply with whatever crazy stuff the next governor forces them to do. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they want. They want control, not just preemption. They want local governments to beg for each penny that they get from the state so that they can control what's coming out of our, public good.
The key word that I'm focused on, which is control. Property taxes. Again, I spent Monday and Tuesday in Tallahassee, all day Tuesday, talking about property taxes with our legislators. And for the most part, a lot of them agree. There's no way that most municipalities can operate or even stay afloat without the property taxes. They agree with that. Now, some of them actually agree that we can actually, again, the governor made this statement during a year ago now, about a year, a little over a year and a half. It was a press conference, and he said, There shouldn't be any property taxes. Folks should be able to save money and put this money in their pocket. You know what? I don't think when he made that statement, there wasn't a plan. I think he just made the statement and it just grew legs. Mm-hmm. And now here are the remnants of it of House Bill 180, House Bill 840, and there's another House bill out there that's about 30%. But when you look at municipalities, let's take small municipalities where I have one municipality that said 80% of the budget is property taxes. They're out of business. City of Ocoee, we're at 38% of property taxes is our revenue. We're in trouble. And if you look at all the municipalities throughout the state of Florida as a whole collective unit, and you take that away, you're talking about fire services. Okay, so my house on fire. Where's the fire department? Oh, I'm sorry. I got $5,000 in my pocket, but my house on fire. Mm-hmm. See, it's the education component that we're going to have to look at. Because again, as I mentioned before, there's going to be a bill that's going to hit the ballot in August.
Yeah.
And the average person that I speak to that don't know anything about this and really heard about it, hadn't really paid any attention to it, and I said, hey, I'll put it to them like this. You pay property taxes, right? How much are property taxes? Oh, I'm paying about $6,000 a year. Okay. How would you feel if I took that $6,000 and put it back in your pocket? Oh man, that'd be great. And then I say, well, what happens if your house catch on fire? The fire department don't show up. Or there's trouble, a burglar, trying to get in your house and the police department don't show up. Or we just had a hurricane and all that debris that's in your yard on your street, you can't get through, don't get picked up. What about all that? And they say, well, what do you mean? And I explained to them, that $6,000 in your pocket goes to those services. Mm-hmm. I says, and then you get to the point and say, well, why do I own something that I got to keep paying for over and over and over again? Well, you know what? I own my cell phone, but it's no good to me without the service.
Yeah.
I pay for the service, even though I own the cell phone. So you have to put it in terms that people can truly understand it. And then at the end of the conversation, they will probably kind of do a 180 and they say, no, I need this $6,000 to go back into my municipality. So as elected officials, as legislators, as community leaders, as some of even the large corporations, we're going to have a responsibility to say, hey, we got to educate folks before this hit the ballot and say, this is what this means.
Yeah. And
you have to make an educated decision to keep the $5,000 or $6,000 in your pocket. But then what's going to happen to your insurance rates? They're going to go up too. And that's another argument they're going to make. They're going to say, well, insurance is already high, so why can't I keep some of that money to offset the insurance rates? Yeah, but again, house on fire. And I'm going to tell you, I am definitely a champion of keeping property taxes in place for the reasons of first responders. A few years ago, I was at home, wife was gone, I wanted some French fries. I put this much grease in a pot, put it on high, and walked away, forgot about it.
Oh.
Burnt my kitchen down.
Oh my God, that's happened. I feel like that's about to happen to me because I do that all the time and I've caught it. But man, do I just walk away from my kitchen just cooking something and then I'm like, oh, I need to go throw the laundry in. And
exactly. I got distracted. And if it wasn't for the fire department, my whole house would have been gone.
Oh my God.
So, and it got there like record speed. I'm like, oh, come on in, and they were able to save my house, but not my kitchen. But nonetheless, I have firsthand experience with those people that you don't see. I see police officers all the time on the road. They go up and down my street all the time. I see them in the community. I see them everywhere. Mm-hmm. I don't see firefighters until there's some kind of emergency, but you don't know what you need until you actually need it. Mm-hmm. So I would rather pay the property taxes to make sure they have the equipment, response time, the education, the training that they need to get to me to save my house.
Yeah.
So again, it's an education component that has to be reined out. Because again, there's some folks that they're going to want to get rid of all property taxes, thinking that they're saving folks money or at least giving folks the impression that they're putting money in their pockets so they can either get reelected or just to stay where they are. or move to another position. It's so much more than just that. It's not about someone staying in a position or getting reelected. It's about safety. It's about saving lives. Mm-hmm. It's about the services that we need. When you flush your toilet, you need the water to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Guess what pays for that? Your property taxes. What about the municipalities that 80% is now let's even cut it down by 35%, or just cut it out away. They're still out of business. I don't care how you look at it, no matter how you slice it, dice it, saute it, or whatever. It's still the same thing. You're out of business. Yeah. What does that mean now? Oh, the county comes in and goes, oh yeah, you can't afford your fire protection? Okay, come on over here. We'll take care of it. Oh, you can't afford your police? Come on, we're going to take over that as well. Oh, your water, utilities. Oh, we have all these things for you. We're not even going to tax you, but we're going to charge you fees. Mm-hmm. We're going to have we call it non-ad valorem fees. Yeah. And we're going to pay you, and you're going to pay one way or another. You're going to pay. Yeah. What does that mean for their tax rate? It just goes up. Insurance going up, tax rate going up, but you still got that $6,000 in your pocket. It's gone now because they got to get to the county. Mm-hmm. So who's at the county going to say, wait a minute, we can't do this. Mm-hmm. We can't go down this road and start taking over municipalities because they can't afford, because they're taking the tax dollars. We got to advocate up here. We got to go to Tallahassee. We got to advocate to say, if you're going to do something, give it as less impact to these smaller minorities or these smaller municipalities as possible.
Well, I'll tell you that our county commission right now, they're very scared of Tallahassee. And I say that because I see the way they vote. A lot of times, like when the homeless sleeping ban ordinance came down and they were considering criminalizing sleeping out in public property, when the 287G agreement came down and they wanted to use our Orange County corrections and sheriffs to comply with the federal and state agencies to conduct immigration raids and move migrants to Alligator Alcatraz, many of the commissioners made a statement of, well, if the governor removes me, then he's going to appoint somebody who's going to be much worse, so I have to comply. Do you feel like you would have a similar stance, or do you think you would be willing to get into the crosshairs of that fight? That's a question. I say that because, Commissioner Semrad called me the night of that 287G agreement, and we were in tears together because her husband was abroad, and we were at the time planning like, okay, well, if they come to arrest you, I guess I'll take your kids. I can make arrangements with your sister who lives in Wisconsin. We can figure out how to get your kids up there. She was like putting my name in, the school record so I can pick her kids up from school. Like we had a plan for if the governor removed her, because she said to me, if I put my head down on a pillow and know that I basically repeated Nazi Germany history and just complied, I won't be able to sleep. And so I'd rather be on the right side of the history and put my whole family at risk.
Good for her.
But other commissioners made this statement of, well, you guys, as in the constituents, you know me, you trust me, I have your best intentions in heart. But if the governor gets to remove me and plant someone else, then you're going to have someone who could be way more destructive. So this isn't, all the infrastructure conversation is a really great conversation because that's within the purview of a commissioner. But nowadays, commissioners are being put in the crosshairs of culture wars and attacks that are unprecedented.
The reason I smirked, the reason I kind of laughed and leaned over when you posed that question, and I leaned back, but now let me lean in.
Yeah.
On that question. When you look at my eyes, I ask folks, what do you see? What really do you see when you're looking, not Commissioner George Oliver's eyes, but in just George Oliver as a person, as a Christian, as a man? What do you actually really see? And it's a rhetorical question. But one thing I can tell you, what you don't see fear. Mm-hmm. See, because, again, if you met me on the streets and you didn't know me, and we met for the first time, I'll say, hi, how you doing? My name is George Oliver, right? I never leave when I'm Commissioner George Oliver, because before I was Commissioner George Oliver. I was George Oliver. When I'm no longer Commissioner George Oliver, I'm still going to be George Oliver III. So as far as making a decision to do what is right, I care less about a title. Mm-hmm. I'm not moved by a title. I'm moved by actions and words. So would I care about the governor removing me? Nope. As long as I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. You know, and again, my commitment to the people, the citizens that live in District 2, Orange County District 2, has already started. I've already made a commitment to them. Not because I'm just running, because I resigned my real job to run full time. I can't speak for other candidates. I can't speak for other folks that's running for other offices. I can't speak for them. I can only speak for George Oliver III. Mm-hmm. Not Commissioner George Oliver, but George Oliver III is, I'm willing to make the commitments that is necessary to keep people safe, that is necessary to do what is right every single time, mm-hmm. no matter the cost.
And for all residents, I'd like to suggest, because you have a huge farm worker community, mm-hmm. which historically have been African Americans, Caribbean Americans, and Hispanic population. And, you know, we have the Farm Workers Association based out of District 2, and the people that frequent their facility are living in a whole other layer of hell right now.
Correct. Yeah.
It was already bad before because farm workers are the epicenter of human trafficking, mm-hmm. of extremely harsh conditions, heat stroke, dehydration that takes a physical toll on their bodies and on their health. And then, of course, extreme exposure to pesticides and fertilizers. But right now, with our state, federal, and local agencies working in lockstep to target and detain and ship people, we're seeing record numbers of children not showing up to school.
Correct.
Record numbers of children not getting picked up mm-hmm. after school.
Adults not showing up for work. Yeah.
And it's hitting our economy. You know, I hate that we're talking about human beings. I hate that I have to bring it to the economy, but it's not smart business either. And it's just damn right cruel.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm not going to say which commissioners, but I've heard folks say they don't vote. So they don't feel like they necessarily represent them.
I don't believe in that. Again, whether you vote, you don't vote. If I represent you, I represent you. And I have a loyalty to people that I represent, whether you vote or don't vote. Whether you voted for me or didn't vote for me. I have a loyalty to them. And I'm willing to fight. I'm a fighter. You know, I fight when God tells me to fight. I sit still when God tells me to sit still because there's something he's trying to tell me. And it's probably preparing me for a fight. And I have to be very cognizant of that. So whether you, again, non-voter, voter, or didn't vote for me, or it doesn't matter. Whatever side of the fence you're on, it doesn't matter. I'll still fight for you. Case in point, we have there is an online publication in Ocoee that has written some pretty terrible things about me, you know. But here's my point. They've done that, but I do believe in the freedom of speech, even though there's been some words that I didn't like written about me, but I would defend that freedom of speech to the end, every day, all day, every single time, whether I like the message or not, because that's what I raised my hand up in the United States Navy for. That's what I raised my hand up to be a city commissioner for. That's what I raised my hand up to be a dad, a husband, a friend, a son, mm-hmm. a nephew. I raised my hand up to be all these things to protect all of those things, those freedoms that we enjoy. And sometimes we just, we take them for granted. So yeah,
Definitely.
I had to tell the editor,
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't like what you wrote, but I still support your right to freedom of speech.
That's excellent. So you have many fights ahead. My question to you is, what do you do to replenish yourself, knowing that you have to be on all the time, like mentally, spiritually, go go go? What do you do to refill your cup?
I'm constantly, and that's an excellent question. I'm constantly aligning myself up with the Word of God. I'm constantly aligning myself, putting myself in position to have discernment and to always to hear that little still voice in me. And what I have to do every day is I don't start my day with a sense of urgency. I got to pick up my phone. I got to do this. No. I recharge every single day. My wife and I, we read scriptures at night together, and then we decree and declare them as they are written together. And then the next morning, I wake up, we have what's called quiet time. So I may wake up 3 o'clock, I may wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, and I go into a room and I literally just sit still.
Mm-hmm.
I do nothing. There's no phone with me. It's just me, darkness, and sometimes I watch the sunrise. And it's a time for me, it's called quiet time. It's time to meditate. And if it gets really hectic, if it gets really, really, really bad, and the quiet time ain't enough, I do what's called shut the world off. So I call my wife. I don't know I have no idea when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but I'll get the sense of urgency over my quiet time. And I say, oh, wait a minute, this is shut the world down. And it usually happens maybe once a year. And I'll call my wife and say, I'm shutting the world off today. And she'll say, her reply was, text me to say I'm safe.
Uh-huh.
Then I'll call a good friend of mine who's a pastor, and we'll pray. Then I'll leave my house and I'll check into a hotel. And for 24 hours, I commune, I pray, I meditate, I sleep, I wake up, I meditate, commune, I listen to sermons, and I listen and I sit in quiet for 24 hours. And then when I walk out, I ask God for a word. He gives me a word. I read that word, and I walk according to the purpose that I'm toward my destiny. I walk in purpose toward my destiny. That's how I refuel. That's how I get rid of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do it in silence, quietness. That's what I do.
I definitely interview Democrats and Republicans, but I find it interesting that Democrats are looked at as the non-God party or something, because almost every single podcast has had somebody bring up their faith and how important it is to them, and how for some reason the brand nationwide has been that Republicans are the party of God. And I don't find that true.
You get that a lot. I take it one person at a time, one individual at a time. I don't look at it as a party thing. I look at it as a person. I look at the person. Are you truly a God-fearing person? And if you are, but you're out there attacking other folks, can you really call yourself a faith-based politician or a person of faith? They have to ask themselves that. Mm-hmm. I can't even judge them for that, because this is what the scripture says: judge ye not unless you be judged. So I can't judge them on it. It's something that they have to come to terms with their God and their relationship with God, to say, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I walking according to your word and the purpose that you've put me in here for? So it's an individual effort. It's an individual thing. Yeah.
Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm definitely going to have you back. I'm excited to see what your campaign folds into, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about your campaign?
Yes, you can go to GeorgeOliverIII.com. That's GeorgeOliverIII.com. Now, it's the number 3 RD, GeorgeOliverIII.com. It has a lot of my information about past elections, and this current election. Information is on there about that. If you want to donate to my campaign and my cause, you can go to that website and donate to the campaign. And I guarantee you your money will be used for all intentions and purposes that it's supposed to be used for. No misappropriations, but it'll go toward getting the message out to the masses of folks to understand that there's a person that's going to be in Orange County, District 2, that's going to be fighting for all folks.
And right now, at the time when this airs, you're going to be making a huge push for petitions. And I try to tell people a petition saves $2.50 for anyone who's running for office at the county level. And that's worth gold when you're trying to qualify and not have to
Absolutely.
pay $5,000, right?
Exactly. Yes, it does.
So if
That
you don't have the
$5,000
monetary means, please at least sign a petition.
Absolutely, because that $5,000 can go towards getting the message out to the folks that that really needs to hear the message in the direction that we're trying to turn this whole county into, and especially District 2, the resources that we're going to be bringing to you guys, and the programs, youth programs. I didn't even get into the youth programs because that is one of the basic foundations of all of my campaigns is youth programs and giving them the ability to have a great life, but also giving them hope for their future.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited. And you are making George Oliver II and George Oliver I very proud.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you all so much. We'll see you at the next one.
Take care.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you heard today, please comment, subscribe, and share. And visit organizingtovictory.com so that you can learn more about all the ways that we're going to be organizing this year. It is the most important election year of our lives. I know you hear that all the time, but we here at Organizing to Victory hope to not just talk about the issues, but to organize around the issues. So please share, subscribe, and follow us. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.